way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
I'm really just starting to sink my teeth into it. As again I mentioned, we're singularly focused. We don't prepare for failure, and so we'll proceed methodically through this. We'll probably move a little slower than most of our peers, but we don't worry about the Joneses. We got a business model, one that we believe in, and we'll be thorough in doing so and assessing what transpired in an effort to tee up our next opportunity, and at the appropriate time, we'll start working that area.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missi Matthews. The Steelers, unfortunately, did not make it to the postseason, finishing the 2022 season 9-8. I want to welcome in now Bob Pompeani to discuss a bittersweet day at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday. They beat the Browns, but the other thing that they needed to happen, they got 2 out of 3. And as we sit here today, the season's over.
Missy, they needed 6 things to happen dating back to week 17
Right.
and 18. They got 5 of the 6. But the one they didn't get was Miami, which sputtered to a win. And almost when you watch them play, you wonder, what are they going to do in the playoffs that the Steelers couldn't do? Because I think the Steelers would have been a better team in the matchup against Buffalo. However, that did not happen. But there were some good things after a very slow start. And quite frankly, when you dig a 2-6 hole, it's hard to come out of. You need a lot of things to happen. But I think because it was a transition year for quarterback, that's the most important position on the field in the NFL. I mean, they got good results as Kenny Pickett continued to play well, especially I thought on critical downs, and that will give them a big jump into next season. And I think that's very important.
I think when you lose TJ Watt, the reigning defensive player of the year, that was also something that took an adjustment period for the defense. But specifically with the offense, they're just so young. The offensive line was new to each other, new to the team, and you're going from Mitch Trubisky then to Kenny Pickett. So there were adjustments, Najee Harris even. It was just remarkable the second half of the season, how much they were able to get that run game going, which is important when you have a rookie quarterback thrown into the fire, and his first start was in Buffalo.
Yeah, not a good place to start your career, but I thought he did okay in stretches of that game. But you're right, this is the youngest group in the National Football League. I looked yesterday and saw some of the ages. They have a lot to build on. They have guys coming back now who will be in their 2nd and 3rd years. That experience should help them immeasurably. And I think a guy like Freiermuth over the middle, I still think they're going to have to probably add to the wide receiving core, but the running back tandem is very good. You got an over-the-top guy in George Pickens, and I think the relationship with he and Kenny that they created now will jumpstart them into next year too. So there is a lot of stuff to be really happy about moving into 2023 from an offensive standpoint. I still think their defense is going to be good no matter how they address some of their needs, but the offense should make a jump, big jump.
All right, as you said, they start 2-6, not how you want to start. You got to start fast, and a lot of those AFC East games were in that bunch where it clearly hurt them down the stretch. But being able post-bye week, which sounded like it was a hard week for the players, a very raw and maybe straightforward week of airing their grievances and getting back together. Finishing 7-2, that's something this young squad is going to say, hey, we were able to dig ourselves out of that hole and very, very close to making it. A team on the rise, as Coach Tomlin said, but unfortunately not enough.
Yeah, and lessons learned along the way. I think that's important for a young group that hasn't been through it. And again, to me, most teams, when they look at quarterbacks, some of them take 4 or 5 years to get it right. They could draft somebody. We saw in New York this year how Zach Wilson, although he did well here, after that, the whole season kind of imploded on him. That's the 2nd year for him. You'd expect more. So it's always risky to make that transition from a Hall of Fame quarterback, especially to a new start. And I think Kenny Pickett, once he got in there, just got gradually better and better and better. And you saw some of the results of that. There were a lot of interceptions early because I'm sure he was worried about turnovers, not making them, a little restrictive use of going down the field. Then he got comfortable. And I think that comfort level will only increase, especially next year now. And Mike Tomlin was excited in his press conference when he talked about this young group and taking them to the next level. So I think that all bodes well.
I think consistency too. When Kenny Pickett went in, they stuck with him. There were growing pains, but we saw the end result at the end of this season. So a lot to discuss in terms of Kenny Pickett and the rest of his rookie class. We'll do that when we return, and also hear from Alex Highsmith on his offseason plans. We'll be right back.
So I think next year, that's just going to be the key, is just to start fast and finish well, because you always have to finish well also. But I just like the core group of young guys that we have. I just loved how the offense, just kept getting better and better, and us defense as well. We kept getting better and better, every week. And so just seeing how Kenny kept growing with those guys. He's such a competitor, and just it's awesome having him as our quarterback. And I just look forward to the start of next year already.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Kenny was great all year. His want and will to understand stuff like protections and defensive fronts is really special. You don't see that in a lot of quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. So it was really cool. And for him to pick my ear and be able to teach him some things, it's a cool relationship to have.
Steelers rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett was thrown into the fire just 4 weeks into the 2022 season, but a number of his draft classmates got a lot of reps and a lot of experience. And Bob, it was good to see, especially guys like Connor Hayward, Mark Robinson, even towards the end of the season. And it does feel like a very promising class that's young, and we'll see much more from next year.
Yeah, and when you talk about young guys coming in, there used to be a time when there was an acclimation period in the NFL. Not anymore. These guys come in and they are going to play, which I think is good for the Steelers. Now they have 4 of the top 80 picks coming into this draft. Thanks to the Chicago Bears for surrendering that second pick. That's number 32. That's a big, high pick. So they should add to this group. And you don't normally get even DeMarvin Leal. A third-round pick came in, and I thought he really adapted quickly. Mark Robinson, someone who's going to be a contributor. You can go all the way down the list. And Connor Hayward, to me, is the guy that we should talk more about, because you see in his game, it started with Atlanta with that touchdown reception, how meaningful it was, but anytime he's on the field to make something happen, he seems to do it. And I thought a lot of people thought that pick was kind of a courtesy pick because of Cam. No, the guy can play, and he gives them a lot of depth at what is now, I think, a strong tight end position.
He does have that Cam Haywardness about him, puts his head down, goes to work. He's a good team player. I think also the fact he has a great relationship with Kenny Pickett going back before they started their college careers. And even Kenny tried to recruit him to leave Michigan State and come to Pitt. But you saw it in training camp because they work so well together. And then in the preseason, we're seeing it now. Every time there has been a play where Kenny's gone to Connor, it's like, hey, we work so much together. We know each other inside and out. And I think the other great thing about Kenny Pickett is the relationship with George Pickens, who is somebody I think since training camp, you just, fans and media oohing and awing over the ridiculous things that he can do with his body and staying in bounds and catches. More to come from him as well.
No question. You saw that catch in Cleveland, which to me arguably is in that top 5 of the year, maybe the best catch of any wide receiver. There were so many others. You put the ball in his area, that little window, he's going to win those. 50-50 balls become 70-30 in his favor. And not part of the draft class, but a rookie was Jaylen Warren, another guy. You can put him in that class. He wasn't drafted, which is surprising given what he's shown. But I guess he had some fumble issues in college. But man, the guy has just earned a role. And he did it just like Pickens. In training camp, people notice him right off the bat. Right? You see it every day up there, and okay, let's see if we can do it in the stadiums, and he did.
I think it's also, in terms of Najee Harris and the wear and tear and what we've seen from him his rookie season coming into this year, he was dealing with that foot injury that really hampered him and didn't let him practice with the new group of guys in front of him and quarterbacks as well. But for Jaylen Warren to be that guy that can come in, give Najee a breath, and be useful as well, especially on third downs. I think even, what he was able to do there, they're only going to build on it, and it's a really good tandem to have and to keep working with.
And there was a thought, Missy, you might remember, where Najee Harris wanted the ball all the time. And that's never good for longevity of a running back, I think. It's always better to have multiple options there. And I think Mike Tomlin said it earlier this year in one of our shows here, where he said, if I have 2 backs, I'll use 2 backs. If I only have 1, I'll use 1. It gives both players a role, and it helps one another. So it's a great compliment to have. And Jaylen Warren's going to be somebody who I think takes a lot of pressure off him and makes it more difficult to defend the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And he loves special teams too, always putting his hand in that pile as well. But I think for this rookie class, so many great things. But Coach Tomlin, it's always challenging the year 1 to year 2 jump. And DeMarvin Leal, somebody you mentioned, got a lot of reps earlier when TJ Watt was out. He was on IR himself and came back. I bet he's one of those guys that might change his body a little bit when he comes back this summer.
And there's another guy I'm hoping that next year takes a jump, and that would be Loudermilk. They were thought highly, and I thought he made some good plays in his first season. Not so much this year. I'm not sure why, but that's a guy, if he could add to that group. I mean, that's, you got Cam Hayward. Don't know about Ogunjobi if he's going to come back, but I thought he was good in spurts for them too. And you get younger there, I think it's very important. So both those guys, but Leal looked natural. He looked like a sideline to sideline guy with a burst for someone as big as he is. But you're right, he'll be even bigger.
All right, and we will also hear coming up later in our show from the Steelers sack leader, Alex Highsmith, that and much more when we return here on the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Just really taking that third year jump, I think was just so important for me and so huge for me. So I'm just, so grateful to have the year that I had and just really just to be healthy, coming out of it all. And so I think it was just, like I said, gave me a lot of confidence. And so look forward to building on it for next year.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. Are you 84 Lumber material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
14.5 sacks on the season. No, I'm not talking about TJ Watt. I'm talking about Alex Highsmith. He also led the NFL with 5 forced fumbles, and Dale Lawley had a chance to catch up with him following the end of the season.
Alex, you came into this season saying double-digit sacks was your goal. You get 14.5. Did you maybe even exceed what you thought you could do?
Yeah, just so grateful for this year, and just felt like it was a big jump for me, and that's just really what I wanted to do going into this year. Just really taking that third year jump, I think was just so important for me and so huge for me. So I'm just so grateful to have the year that I had, and just really just to be healthy, coming out of it all. And so I think it was just, like I said, gave me a lot of confidence, and so look forward to building on it for next year.
How do you do that? How do you build on a 14.5 sack season?
Yeah, just continue to get better, never get complacent. I think that's what hurts guys in this league is they see some success and they get complacent, they get comfortable. So just to never get complacent or comfortable, and just to always be willing to get better, no matter that's just kind of the mindset that I have. No matter how many sacks I have in a game, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 0 sacks, no matter what, I just want to always feel like I can play better, and so I'll just continue to have that get better mindset.
The other big part of your game, and it has been since day one, is stopping the run and setting the edge. Obviously, the defense was much better this year stopping the run than it had been last year. Was that just a mindset for the entire defense? Like, hey, we can't do that again.
Yeah, for sure. We know it's been a staple of the Steelers defense, to stop the run and be physical and get after guys. And we know after last year that was unacceptable. So I think we had a lot of guys that were bought into that, and I think we took a big jump in that. We know we can be even better. There were some games that got away from us, but we know we can even take a step further in that aspect of the game as well.
Now that's what I'm talking about. That's ham-hock power down inside in the trenches.
The not making the playoffs this year obviously has to hurt. You'd been there last year. With a young team like this, do you feel like you can carry how you guys finished this year over into next year? I know Mike Tomlin doesn't like to talk about one year playing into the next, but with so many young guys on this team, is there a carryover?
I think we have momentum going to next year. It definitely sucks, just like you said, not making the playoffs, and especially because we ended it so well. But we just didn't start fast enough. So I think next year, that's just going to be the key, is just to start fast and finish well, because you always have to finish well also. But I just like the core group of young guys that we have. I just loved how the offense, just kept getting better and better, and us defense as well. We kept getting better and better, every week. And so just seeing how Kenny kept growing with those guys. He's such a competitor, and just it's awesome having him as our quarterback. And I just the forward to the start of next year already.
Right now, we're stopping the run. We get down to the great. Move out. Let's run on 3, 1, 2, 3.
You tied for the league in forced fumbles this year. Is there a knack to doing that?
Yeah, I think it starts in practice. For me, just especially coming off the blind side, I just always want to be ball searching. Because a lot of QBs are righty and they're all looking away from me. So I know like there's times in college where when I got around the edge, I would just want to hit the QB as hard as I can. But especially now with different rules and everything, it just it's really emphasis is on getting the ball out. And so I think it just starts in practice, just really working on bending the corner, really reaching my arm out to get that. And so that just, I think it really paid off for me this year. And so I just want to continue to get better at that as well.
How much study goes into pass rushing?
It's a lot. Studying other guys. Of course, I love watching TJ. Playing with him and seeing what he does. Other guys I've always watched, like Von Miller, Khalil Mack. Guys like that. And so, but it takes a lot of study because first of all, you got to study the guy you're going against. You got to determine what set he's doing, whether he's kicking back vertical or he's kicking out laterally, low hands, high hands. So you got to study a lot of different stuff because some of the same moves don't work against. They don't work against different guys. You have to kind of switch up your moves and stuff like that. And so I think it's just important to study not only the guys you're going against, but also yourself and just seeing how you can improve as well. You
mentioned moves. You've got a variety of pass rush moves. What's your go-to?
I would say the spin move. That's probably my favorite. But I like to use it like a counter move, so I like to work a lot of speed, getting guys to turn their hips and stuff. And whenever I work that, it's kind of a setup move, so that I kind of feel when it's gonna work. And so that's kind of, like I said, a setup move. And so it's definitely my go-to. And I definitely got a lot of work to do to get better at that as well, because it was stopped a few times this year. So I just want to make it unstoppable.
You've been a guy that's been very durable. You're always 85% plus snap count pretty much every game. Does that show how much work you put into this?
Yeah, I think it once again starts in practice, and also just all season I really take conditioning seriously to be able to go out there and play a lot of snaps. And I just think it's important to be out there and to be going 100%, playing a lot of snaps. And but I think it just starts with conditioning and getting in shape and really taking practice seriously, because really training camp is how you get yourself ready for the season, and actually being in pads and hitting guys. That's how you really get in shape. So I think Coach Tomlin and the whole coaching staff do a great job of preparing us for the game and for those moments in the game.
You still have a chip on your shoulder, third-round draft pick?
Absolutely. Always will, always have been, ever since being a walk-on. I've always had that chip on my shoulder, and just like I said earlier, I never want to get complacent or comfortable. I'm so grateful and thankful for the opportunity that I have, but at the same time, I just want to continue to get better and better every single year.
And you can catch more of our exit interviews with various Steelers players on the official Steelers YouTube page throughout the entire offseason. Bob, I want to talk about Highsmith because what a season he had. I think completely underrated. Somebody who should have been voted into the Pro Bowl and just really flourished without TJ Watt.
Clearly a mistake by people who are looking at that. I mean, he should have been. And at the time, still, he was one of the top 5 sack guys in the league, and he didn't get the recognition. But I'm sure he'll take what he did, move forward with it, and probably cash in, which I think also leads to a problem because, you're going to have to earmark money for him. He has the final year of the contract, I think, rookie deal, and then you'll be looking to sign him. And if he puts another 14 and a half sacks or more up, you got to make some money available to him. So it's nice to have a rookie quarterback who's on his first contract, so you have a little bit more money to spend. But, man, it's an important guy to have. And I saw this week that Roquan Smith got a new deal from Baltimore. If you put all the linebackers in together, which I know everybody's separate, but, he's going to require that kind of money if that productivity continues.
And I think he's also maybe one of the guys that comes to mind that would be eligible for a contract extension this summer, opposed to letting him play out and, as you said, continuing to have the double-digit sacks. I just think for him, the spin move, just how much hard work he puts in. He was not shy about when he first came here as a rookie to follow TJ Watt around everywhere, and it has paid off for him.
There's no question. TJ Watt makes everybody around him better for sure when he's in there, and that's why when he went out this year, you saw it was more difficult for everyone to do their jobs knowing that Watt wasn't there, and teams didn't have to worry about Watt. So but they're going to have to look at Highsmith the same way. And when they're both healthy next year, hopefully they play the entire season, man, that's going to be tough. Pick your poison there. And if they get some new blood on the inside, it could be the kind of defense I think Mike Tomlin wanted out of this year, minus the injury. So that will also help the offense. And that's why I think when you put it all together, there's a lot to be really hopeful for in 2023. And I think if this team does the right stuff in the offseason, hits on those first 4 picks especially, I think you can see a team that'll be a playoff team next year.
And I think, the season comes to a screeching halt and the exit interviews with Coach Tomlin have started. But then you start thinking, okay, there's 18 free agents, guys that maybe you wanted to keep and would potentially be able to test the market. It's part of the business of the NFL. But you mentioned Larry Ogunjobi, and he does feel like one of those guys that sticks out, that what he was able to do, especially in the middle of that line with Cam Hayward, you'd want to bring him back.
No question. He wasn't in there all the time, but when he was in, you can tell what he meant. Now, he had that big contract with the Bears that was null and void because of a medical report, but he may want more money. That also plays a role in this, but I think ideally they'd like to have him back. I like Cam Sutton a lot. I think Cam Sutton has always performed consistently. The NFL interception leading team was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They came up with plays. DeMonte KZ is a nice guy you'd like to bring back to the equation. So they have a lot of decisions to make. But the good thing, if you listen to the guys in the locker room, they all want to be here, which is a good sign, and I think more of an indication of just what Mike Tomlin means to these players.
And Terrell Edmonds, somebody who tested the free agent market last year, bet on himself, came back. But I just think, the tandem of him and Mika Fitzpatrick is something I personally would like to see continue and stay here. But a guy on the offensive side of the ball that maybe most people aren't thinking about is Zach Gentry. I think for somebody who came here, he changed his body a lot. And what he has meant, just adding to that tight end room, just a different kind of tight end, especially as a blocker, is huge. And hopefully he stays also, so him and Freiermuth can continue their grilling and chilling.
I was going to say, you can't have one without the other. So by that alone, he'll be back at his own price. He'll say, look, I'm grilling and chilling. You can't have one without the other. So, but I think he is a tremendous blocker. It doesn't hurt to have different components in the tight end position. You got Freiermuth, who's going to be one of those big volume catchers. Gentry can give you a little option there as well in the pass game. He's a big target in the red zone. I would expect more of that. And then Connor Hayward, sort of that H-back guy. So I think that room's in pretty good shape right now for sure.
All right, Bob, it's been a fun season. I'm sad that it ended, but
it's wonderful working with you and all the people here at Steelers.com. You guys do a great job, and it's my pleasure for sure.
All right, well, you as well, and thanks as well to Coach Tomlin for all of his help throughout the season. That's going to do it for our final 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.